And we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 13 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And joining us tonight is Sarah Albrecht from Hold My Gun. Sarah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Anytime, you are on the short list of people that have a standing invitation. So we are always happy to see you join us during the week, during these podcasts. So once again, welcome. So folks, tonight we are going to, among other things, discuss and recap the recent Second Amendment rally that took place in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. Sadly, I was unable to attend. Turned out to be quite fortunate, actually, because one of my children ended up getting very, very sick, and then that sickness ran rampant through my household and ended up hitting my wife and I at the same time. So I would have been good to no one anyway. But with that being said, Kent and Sarah, both of you were able to make it to the DC rally. So, Sarah, I'd like to start with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
What were some of the key takeaways? What was your overall feeling from the crowd that turned out? Just kind of give us the, top to bottom, nuts to bolts experience that you had over the weekend there.
My biggest takeaway impression of the event was I was very impressed and just in a good way overwhelmed with the unity that was there, the diversity of the crowd. The atmosphere there was one of just caring about one another. People were having all kinds of wonderful conversations. The speakers were great. They were short speeches. They were between like 5 and 8 minutes a piece on average. And so in a sense, they were sound bites, but everything that people said just offered encouragement to the crowd. I would estimate between 1,200 and 1,500 people. People had to kind of come and go, and there was a lot going on with the Nationals winning the World Series. So there was, a major event going on in Washington, D.C. at the same time. But it was just a wonderful day. And it was exciting to see so many people that we know from YouTube and Instagram and other social media, just to see familiar faces there, give everybody hugs. And I had a really, really good time. It was fun.
That's outstanding. So, Kent, let's kick it over to you, bud. What was your key takeaways from it?
Well, Maj Touré said something to the effect, if you're not willing to die for this, then shut the you-know-what up. TJ, I know how far you and I have taken this conversation previously. We've gone way down the rabbit hole on that very topic. And it was enheartening to me to hear him say that and not to see a bunch of people in the crowd look at their feet.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody was like, "Ooh, I don't know about that." Everybody that I was around and everybody that was in my eyesight, which is pretty much everybody because we were behind him, reacted either positively or at the very least really took a deep breath and went, "Holy shit." Like you could just kind of see that in the atmosphere. That, and I want to give a lot of credit where credit is due to some of the famous people, unlike myself, right? Like there were people there who could have been using it for their own benefit and their own furtherance and making a marketing spiel and, buy man cans and, buy Hickok 45 swag or hit sub here or do this there. Nobody did any of that shit. There was zero self-promotion. And I literally mean that. I don't think I heard one person get up on that microphone and self-promote. And candidly, there wasn't a lot of self-promotion even in the crowd and in intermingling and talking. Most of the conversation was, what can we do to fix this?
Mm-hmm.
So in a group of people who are often like lambasted for like, hey, click here for my Patreon, there is absolutely none of that. So I was very impressed.
No, that's always positive. So you bring up an interesting point where you mentioned specifically everybody kind of coming together, and Sarah, you kind of talked about this as well. Everybody coming together to, hey, let's fix this. Aside from some of the obvious, and we can certainly talk about the obvious, but I'm curious to know if there was anything that was brought up in the discussion, either from the speakers, and I did see a lot of the speakers, or at least the speeches that were given from people posting on social media and Facebook and YouTube and so forth. But I'm really curious if there were any other issues or deficiencies that maybe we as the gun community need to be talking about more frequently that were brought up there that maybe somebody was like, hey, holy shit, I didn't think about that. So we'll bounce it back and forth between you two. But Sarah, if you want to go first.
There wasn't anything that was earth-shattering that people said, like, wow, I never thought of that before. Joshua Prince brought up his testimony from the Pennsylvania Senate Judiciary Committee hearings about the research that he and Dr. Anthony Simone did regarding SSRIs and in the context of mental health and an increase in violent behavior and suicidal ideation. So he did bring that up at the end of his speech. I believe he was the only one that really made a point to talk about concerns with gun safety and medication. There were, Mike Sodini was there of Walk the Talk America. He talked about mental health. A number of people talked about, showing up to vote. They talked about getting involved with your community. So all kind of the normal things that we hear, but it just was like, of course, with a megaphone on the Capitol lawn where everyone could just say, yes, we do need to work on these things. So what can we do together? And it was cool because there was just such a celebratory attitude about it. It was not gloomy and, oh, we have so many problems, just let's all pout about it. It was a very uplifting crowd where people would say like, hey, I'm doing this event here. How about you join me? And again, not in a salesy way, but in a very unifying way. I really appreciated that.
Okay, fair enough. Kent, what about you, man?
It occurred to me that there are a lot of great people who are already doing a lot of great things, right? Mm-hmm. So you can take a look at HMG and go, oh, well, that's really cool. You can take a look at Walk the Talk and say, oh, that's really cool. You can look at Second is for Everyone, Tony Simon. The list goes on. But the point being is that there were maybe as many as 20 different convergent groups of people who have their own niche and have their own spin on activism in the gun community that all came to the same point and all rallied around a unifying cause.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that does not happen at NRAM, and it doesn't happen at SHOT Show, and it doesn't happen in any other industry trading event. The gentleman who, Rob Pincus deserves a lot of credit for the effort that he put into this and some others as well. But the last minute, last stitch convergence of money and time to get something like this together and how effective it was just goes to show that if an organization like the NRA would, excuse me for going this far this soon, but pull their heads out of their asses and come up with, if this had been planned a year in advance, we could have lit the lawn on fire. I mean, literally, we could have had that place full from one end of the lawn to the other, and it could have looked like a I Have a Dream speech from MLK or something else. It really could have. The amount that was able to be accomplished in such a short time was awesome. And it was really great to see where people all come at this from their own angle,
mm-hmm.
but nobody put their cause above the cause. If that's the right way to phrase this, like nobody.
That's a great way to put it.
Right? Like,
yes.
No, we didn't from the perspective of HMG, and nobody else did either. Nobody else stood up and said ours is the most important or ours is, superficial above the rest. Everybody had their own little corner of the universe, and we all came together. And I thought it was really, really uplifting to see that many different types of gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God, we were all over the map. We had the liberal gun owners, the pro-abortion gun owners, the freaking total hardcore Trump gun owner, the fundamentalist constitutionalist gun owner, the anarchist gun owner. There's a million gun owners there. But what we were is all two things, or all Americans and we're all gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
I know it sounds cheesy, but it really did have that kumbaya feeling to it. And I have never experienced anything like that in the gun community. It was just an amazing, pleasant surprise. It wasn't a trade show. It wasn't people, just only saying, look at me. It was like, okay, and how can what you do fit into this big picture? And how can I help you? Like it was just all people kind of singing the same tune. I think one of the more interesting speakers, just because of his background, was Dan Gross, who was the former president of the Brady campaign. And, he used to be, of course, really into promoting gun control. And it was, he said that speaking at the rally in Washington, D.C., he opened his speech by saying it was one of the hardest things that he's ever done. It really, I'm sure that there was a lot of accountability, and he knows that the audience, knew who he was and the work that he's done. And, but he really has had a change of heart, and he realized that, many people who said with the Brady campaign that they were really just to help people, that a lot of times the people that came along with that had alternative agendas. And something that he said that really just left an impression with me was that he realized that we need to do better, as a whole without involving the government. That's huge. So it was really cool. It seems like there are some points we probably disagree on as far as, but of course he's just coming around. But as far as who should and shouldn't have firearms, that's always a topic, even in the gun community. But he was definitely open to learning more, and it was an amazing thing for him to be there participating and just openly and honestly sharing how he has changed his thinking on firearms and on the gun community. Is pretty cool.
So I'm curious to talk more about that. Did either of you get an opportunity to speak to him kind of either behind the scenes or when he wasn't speaking? I'm really curious if the question was asked, what was it that made him change his position on the Second Amendment? I mean, you go from a guy literally the torchbearer, the guy carrying the flag of gun control that started a lot of it, at least the more recent gun legislation, dating back, of course, to the 1994 assault weapons ban, and around that era, right? So that's when the Brady campaign really started. What was it? What was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak?
I talked to him for about a half hour, and it really did just seem like he just started to notice. He didn't name a specific thing, but he was noticing that people just had an agenda, and that after a while they weren't always interested in simply helping people, but they were more interested in promoting an agenda. And it's, of course, in the work that I'm doing, putting together this nonprofit, I was just saying solidarity. I've noticed the same kind of thing. You have to be careful who is trying to team up with you. And so something that I had shared with Dan was, and this is just a thought that's really smacked me in the face lately, is that when you're listening to people, you want to listen. Does this person have a heart for me and for this cause? Or do they have an agenda for me? And he was like, that's exactly it, Sarah. Like that is what I started to notice. And so as he slowly just started to educate himself more, it seems that, he had an understanding despite his own loss. I believe he lost his brother to gun violence. And certainly in that line of work, you hear a lot of stories that are really sad, but we recognize that, it's not the fault of the gun, and that we can't take away people's rights and their ability to make decisions for themselves. So as I continue to talk to him, I really want to learn more about his story. We've been in touch since the rally, and I'm looking forward to hearing. He has a new organization that he's putting together that hasn't launched fully yet, but it sounds like an organization that will help people, but also promote rights. So I'm really curious to see how that will turn out too.
Yeah, that'll certainly be interesting. And, a lot of the people, and I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to be misunderstood. I don't think that there is a person on this planet, or at least that I know of, that will not understand or at least empathize with what the anti-gun people, politicians, legislators, so forth. We're not going to. We can empathize with what they're claiming is the motivation for the actions that they're taking. I don't know a single pro-gun person that is championing the deaths of children or workplace violence or domestic violence or anything of the sort. And at that same time, though, I'd really like to get a chance to talk to him myself, because I'm really, really curious about people who, because let me back up a little bit. That sword swings both ways, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like we have people, and Sarah, to your point, he claimed, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but based on what you're telling me, it sounds like he's coming from a position of he started to see the true meaning and the intent and the agenda behind the people that were on his side of the aisle, so to speak. And that is kind of what drove him to be like, no, I've made a mistake with the position I've taken. I need to go more pro-Constitution, more pro-civil liberty, so on and so forth.
I don't want to put too many words in his mouth.
No, and I'm trying to avoid that as best I can.
He's very smart, and my impression was the more that he had an understanding, of it, and perhaps even met people in the gun community. It sounds like he's known Rob for a while. Something we talk about in our circles is just, like take your friends to the range and things like that.
Right.
And it's really difficult, to have the same heart for helping people and then say, but those folks over there obviously don't care, while they're also saying, we really care about people getting hurt. Like, we've seen that in working with Hold My Guns. People sometimes are surprised to know that us folks in the gun community actually care about things like mental illness and suicide and negligence. And as they ask more questions, their arguments against the firearms community really fall apart. So I am really curious to hear more of that story. But I have to say that Dan is a very intelligent person, and it sounds like as he was doing more homework and talked to more people, that over time his opinion changed. So really cool guy. Yep. And I think he has a ways to go. And something else that we've talked about before, TJ, is just welcoming people from all walks of life. And Kent was mentioning the crowd that was there, how diverse it was. And everybody at some point, had to come to the conclusions that they did. And so I hope that we can all stick to our principles, but continue to be empathetic as new people come in, as more people become educated. So we take people to the range and we have new shooters, how are we going to treat them? How are we going to welcome them and also educate them?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really what I was getting. And you're Sarah, you're 100% correct. It really doesn't matter how you end up getting here, to being on the pro-gun side or the pro-2A side. But it's important to understand that once you're here, there are several of us who are going to hold you to the expectation of be here for the right reasons. So just to compare it to something else, the anti-abortion movement is not in existence because there is a pro-choice movement. Does that make sense?
I could talk about that all day. So
but you see what I'm saying. Like
it depends on why people go into it, but a lot of people have empathy for some of the reasons why people make that choice. Right. Is that what you're trying to say?
They're there because they believe in the cause, not because they want to be the antithesis of their counterpart. Right. I'm sure.
Yeah, because I used to work in the birth field, so I do know that there are some people who take up causes like that just for the sake of being nasty. And
we have a word for those now. They're called trolls.
There are trolls in every community. Yeah.
Yeah, and in my opinion, I'd say those are exceptions to the rule, not the rule.
Sure.
But yeah, you're going to find those everywhere you go. But I mean, that's fantastic. I really wish I could have been there, man. I'm telling you. So we are getting some input in the comments.
Cool.
We had somebody, my brother, of course, would have liked to have been there in DC, but instead they're out on the West Coast right now. They went around and they signed a petition to help repeal 1639, which is one of the anti-gun legislation. It's kind of an omnibus, for lack of a better term, that was passed over there in Washington State. If you guys aren't familiar with the 1639 passing, it is horrendous. God forbid it passes or something like that passes anywhere else. But the key thing here is, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, but if you should never feel bad about not being able to make it to the rally. The idea is to get involved and get other people involved, right? Mm-hmm. If you can't make it to DC, there were let's be conservative and say 2,000 people at this Second Amendment rally. There's a lot more gun owners in this country than there are that showed up at that rally. Mm-hmm. Kit, what would you have to say for the people that didn't get a chance to make it out there?
So before I lose this point, I'm gonna interject it, and then I'll. Oh boy, I've been back and forth on the question you just asked me for like a week. There is another segment of the gun industry that is as kumbaya-ish as this group of people was, and that is the training community. And it really occurred to me on site. The best of us and the best of them, the best of the greats in the training community are always helping each other, constantly trying to get better, constantly trying to improve the product, and always very complimentary of each other. You don't find that when you get Ruger and Savage and Mossberg in a room, right? Somebody built a bigger mousetrap or a better mousetrap. But when it comes to a group of people trying to accomplish the goal, whatever the goal is, in this case, advocacy, everybody there could have financially benefited in some way or could have promoted themselves and did not. And it kind of struck a chord with me when Sarah said the kumbaya feeling in the gun community. And I sat here and thought, I've had that feeling for years. And then it occurred to me that that's my little segment of the gun community that not everybody gets to hang out in all the time. And if there is something that the training community can teach y'all besides how to suck a little less, it's how to respect each other and how to show true grace and true compassion when people need it the most. I mean, look at the ways that different companies help each other in times of need and times of tragedy and stuff like that. We've got that going on right now. I don't want to blow up his spot, TJ. I know you know what I'm talking about, but I mean, damn, guys and girls come out in droves to help each other when it really matters in that group all the time. And it's nice to see the rest of the industry kind of follow suit. And if activism in the gun community if this is really gun culture 2.0, where the NRA won't do it, so fuck you, we can afford speakers ourselves. Like, we've got wires and cables and chairs and tables too. We can do this. Then that's awesome, because we did a great job out there. And I was just very proud to have been a part of it. As far as if you could not be there, I have two sides to this coin. And now I'm going to turn back around and call out the training community a little bit, because some of y'all don't need to teach another class and could have afforded to jump on a plane and come to DC. And you didn't. Not because you had families and lives and things going on or whatever else, but just because you didn't. And some of you were working and some of you were doing whatever you were doing and living your life, and it just wasn't possible. And I get that. I would certainly say this is, if you're not going to be able to make the event itself, spread the word, help, get out and do like your brother did. Like, okay, you can't, I get it. You can't afford, or you don't have the time or whatever for a plane ticket and a trip across the country and all that craziness. Totally understandable. And what did he do? Oh, let's get a clipboard and go get some signatures, go do something. That makes total sense to me. And I don't think we need an excuse to do stuff like that either. I don't think we need a event or a rally or a hashtag to get out from behind our desks and go do something. So be your own advocate. We talk about this in healthcare all the time. Be your own advocate. Well, be your own gun advocate. Get out there. Talk to people. Take people to the range. Do a good job representing us. And this is something I want to say about this rally. Juxtaposed. I mean, Sarah and I were both at 2 rallies within like 40 days of each other, right? We were at Harrisburg and we were at this.
Mm-hmm.
Man, oh man, there were 0 stupid outfits. There were 0 terribly carried guns. There were 0 disrespectful T-shirts. There wasn't any of the nonsensory and
well, there were 0 guns. Yeah.
well, I don't know. I don't know about that part, but there was.
You hear me though. Like no one was open carrying,
right.
Whereas at the Pennsylvania rally, so it was a different atmosphere.
But there also was no fake contractor camo.
Exactly.
And no Kedora bullshit upside down plate carriers, and no I mean, the people that showed up did a very good job representing us in a professional light. And I really feel like I don't have an instance where I saw anybody who I was like, damn, I hope the cameras from CNN don't catch that guy. Not once, right? And there were even some people that were at the PA rally that because of our combined urgings showed up to this one and did a better job representing themselves, which is fucking a huge win as far as I'm concerned.
You mean it didn't look like a mix between Comic-Con and a reunion of all the people interviewed after a tornado in Oklahoma?
TJ, your eloquence knows no bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I calls it like I sees it, and I lost my ass in that tornado.
It was a very professional crowd of people who wanted to be there, and that people who purposed their time and their resources to be there. So I have to give a shout out to Dave Coates from Elite Tactical Academy, knowing that we're working on, putting together a nonprofit. He actually sponsored our trip, and he wasn't able to be there. He had a training event that he had scheduled a long time in advance. But he, helped us to put out some information flyers, so that when people said, "Oh, hi, who are you?" and then I can put a card in their hand, he helped me to do that. He helped to throw some gas money our way. So that was really thoughtful of him to do that. And that's just the kind of thing, as we have events like this, like Kent was saying, find ways that you can, if you can't go, find ways to support people who are going, help to get the word out. Something that was kind of discouraging leading up to the event were people who were posting things like saying, "Oh, if I'm not allowed to carry, I'm not going to go," or people that were just kind of making fun of the event. And I think we need to just continue to move away from that and to say, look, the gun community is more diverse than historically it's been made out to be. Now that, the major gun organization doesn't have the only voice out there, especially since we all have our own, YouTube and social media, we have a voice in this. And so it's going to be diverse. And anyway, just being accepting and promoting things that maybe you didn't do, but somebody else did. And you can say, hey, this might not be an event that I can make it to, but I know there are people out there who can, so working on that versus just saying it's not perfect, so I'm not going to go.
Yeah. I got to call bullshit when I see it. And I'll be the first to admit that I was one of those people that was like, and Kent, you and I had this conversation, bud. It's in DC. They're openly telling people. It's one thing if people read the laws, understand it, and make the conscious decision not to carry their gun in accordance with the laws and statutes of the District of Columbia. But it was where I had to call bullshit was when all the information I saw being put out about it seemed to be coming from the organizers. Say, okay, well, everybody leave your guns at home. I'm like, that pissed me off. It really did. But again, I understand it. I put these childish, quarrels aside. But let's address some of the other, complaints about it. People said, oh, no one's going to show up, or, either way, throwing stones every chance that they could about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Truth be told, that one complaint I had was really the only complaint I had. I think anytime that our side gets a chance to rally, because I think typically people, and I'll use the term conservatives, just very loosely here, but conservatives in general, and our side of this argument, does a horrible job at organizing and rallying and doing shit like that. All those things aside, so first question, do you think it was as bad as people were making fun of it to be? 2, could it have been better? And 3, if it could have been better, how?
Yeah, I mean, so whatever, man. Live your life, protect yourself the way you need to protect yourself, and protect the people that you love the way that you need to protect the people that you love. I don't need the government's permission to bring tools and training and knowledge to make me and the people around me safer. And I'm going to leave it at that. And in case you're wondering if I'm being cryptic, no, I didn't carry a fucking gun this time. Normally, would I have? Yes. Was it worth the risk? No. I had plenty of other stuff that I could have used had the shit gone haywire. Whatever. I'm walking around with a backpack full of crap. But you know what? We were ready if the shit had gone the wrong direction. Security-wise, I mean, I don't know those dudes, but they look like nice gentlemen who were there to help a cause. I don't know. I mean, I could have dealt with some more of like, we could have used some more security, maybe. We didn't have very many problems at all. We had one crazy young guy call us all Nazis and try to kick somebody. That was about the extent of that. It's amazing what happens when like real men and women who aren't afraid to like say what they mean show up in some place, and nobody wants to pick on us or bully us because we ain't taking that crap. I mean, look, you can either fight City Hall from across the street or across the river with all your cool guns and gadgets and gear on, or you can go to City Hall and you can stand in front of them and tell them that we're not going anywhere and we're not walking away and we're going to have this event. So in this one instance, I think not carrying was certainly sufficient and doable. I don't love it, but you got to live with it sometimes. And there's a lot that can be done in NPE to mitigate risk factors if you know what the hell you're doing. And if you don't, maybe you should learn. But
would it be fair, Kent, sorry to interrupt, but would it be fair to categorize it under the choose your battles flag?
Yeah, well, I mean, right. So we could have done that. Like we could have all, fuck you, hell no, we won't go. And, we could have kicked off Boogaloo 2020 right there and then. I don't know if that would have gotten us any gains, really. If anything, it would have given the other side ammunition to say, look how crazy these assholes are. And instead, what happened was 1,500, 2,000 professional adult human beings showed up and did a very, very, very cogent job of articulating a bunch of different points. And we left the place better than we found it. And no vandalism occurred and no looting or stupidity occurred. Nothing got broken. Nothing, we didn't leave the place looking like an Antifa rally. We left it looking like a bunch of professionals with jobs and companies and careers showed up and talked about something and left. Tim, shout out.
Yeah,
Tim.
there was like less trash on the ground when we left than
literally,
just underscoring what you're saying.
Like Boy Scout style. Tim from Military Arms Channel. The last thing that was said on the microphone was Tim from Military Arms getting up and saying, "Hey, not that we should have to say this, but let's leave this place better than we found it." And I'm paraphrasing. I forget exactly what he said, but that's the last thing that was said on that microphone before it was turned off was, let's be respectable and make this place look right before we leave it. And we did a great job. There's always ways you can improve an event. I mean, better attendance would be cool. But it was the first go. I mean, 2020 will be even better. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you there will be a 2020 because everybody was talking about doing it again. And as far as the unwillingness to go places where you feel unwelcome, actually Sophie did a great job of saying that to me. She said, she literally looked at me and she said, "That's our capital." She said, "What are you talking about? If you feel the need to go to, if you feel like you're not welcome in our capital, we've already lost."
It's a valid point.
So I went.
Sure is.
So, there I was, and I went with an eye and a heart for my friends to look out for people and to make sure that nothing really terrible happened. And I went to show my face and be one more positive voice. And everybody did a great job at that. And there are people that have amassed a following and a little bit of fame and some notoriety, and they did a very good job putting their egos and their mutual benefit aside and just spoke from the heart up there. I mean, I had the privilege of filming John Patton give his speech and standing next to him while he was preparing to go give it. This was not somebody standing at a like sales booth ready to hit another 20 people for the next presentation. He was breathing deep and thinking very concisely about the words that were about to come out of his mouth and really, really, truly cared. And I believe everybody that was in that boat was doing the same thing. That's a hell of a weight and a responsibility to put on somebody's shoulders. And our people did a great job. There's very few people who said anything there that I outright disagreed with. I can't really think of anything. There were some things that I didn't think were phrased the right way or different versions that I would have given, but everybody got to speak their piece. Certainly no group of the con community got left out. Right. And it was really well done. I was very proud of everybody. Sarah, I'm immensely proud of what you've accomplished in such a short time. You did a great job representing us. And
wow.
I couldn't be more proud of the way it came off. So I thought it went great. And we missed you immensely, TJ. If not,
we did.
Yeah, for nothing else, the humor and the lack of a soul. But
that's okay. My husband made up for that,
Oh shucks. I feel so special. No, I really do wish I could have been there.
We missed you.
It sucks that I couldn't go, but again, it was that you spend your late teens and your early 20s like, oh man, I never get sick. I'm in perfect health. Yeah, well, go have children. You will be sick
You'll get sick,
especially when they start public school. Dear God, that stomach virus tore through my house like a whirlwind. But anyway, so Sarah, I'm curious. Obviously, granted, not to take away from Ken's point, obviously you weren't, doing the sales pitch or doing the salesy stuff for the Hold My Guns organization that you've started, and we'll get to Hold My Guns here in a minute. But obviously, you are probably one of the warmest and just most what's a good way. You have a very magnetic and inviting personality, and I know you did a lot of talking to probably a lot more of the organizers and the people kind of behind the scenes, so to speak. And I'm really curious about what might have been said, if anything, about future events, and more specifically to answer that question of how we can make this be better.
I was not part of any of the planning at all. My co-founder Genevieve Jones is probably a little bit closer to that because John, like you said, was one of the speakers. I think that they had like a chat that was kind of going for all the speakers and people were sharing ideas and that kind of a thing. In the future, what I'm hopeful for, like Kent was saying, was just an increase in the turnout. And this is the first year that they've done this. So my thought is, when you have an event like this, the first one's always kind of like the burnt pancake, but this was a pretty great pancake. And, in the future, when people put out information, maybe they'll put out like media packs or something like that to share with people. And towards the end of the publicity of it, they did put out things like the 2A rally flag that they came up with that you could add to your Facebook profile, things like that. So they worked really well. At one point when I'm looking at my Facebook page, so many of my friends had the 2A flag on their profile picture. So I think we'll just see an increase in that. And also, we have an opportunity to let the organizers know this event was awesome. We would support you if we did it again, and let us know how we can help. So I think, the takeaway is if people really want to do this, then, share that opinion and ask what you can do to help with it. So it was cool. One of the, I met Sincere Hogan, who lives in Texas. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram, but he traveled a long way to be there. And I always like to share his content because he just has this like old soul personality, and the things that he says, it's always a lot of wisdom, especially having to do with mental health. So it was really cool just to be in the middle of the crowd and to look up and see Sincere, and then just be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you're here. Thanks for coming, and just give each other a hug. And I just had so many experiences like that where I met people who I've been talking to online, people sharing their stories about mental illness. And it was just very, people do tend to tell me things, but I don't mind, I just tell everyone, like, all of us have gone through things and we're all here for each other. And I just kept putting it back to the crowd that was there. Like, this is everybody here cares about things like this, and you're in good company. Everyone cares.
No, outstanding. Yeah. I'm going to rehash the point that I made. I'm going to armchair quarterback the hell out of this thing. But
Okay.
I think one of the biggest issues that we faced with regards to turnout comes back to one of the original problems of the people in our community are not very good at showing up to things like this. It's easy to get them to go out and email their congressman, like, comment, share, and do all that stuff on social media. But as far as actually getting up off the couch and getting involved, for a rally at least, that's difficult. Frankly, we have grown comfortable in not doing that. So I think that just by having these more often, having them more organized, and I think that's, Kent, to your point where, the NRA pulled their head out of their ass and actually tried to organize stuff like this, there might be a little bit more success with regards to turnout and just overall participation. But with that being said, if anything, I would have to call this a success, because I'll tell you what, even those people that were naysayers and poking fun at it and being, for lack of a better term, the bullies in the crowd, even they, I'm sure, had that moment where they thought about, what, while all these people are showing up, what the hell have I been doing? What could I be doing better? And you know what? Even if you didn't show up, if everybody else showing up got you to sit back and reflect and maybe write one more email to your state legislators, or to write your U.S. senators, representatives, maybe actually pick up the phone and call them and leave a message when you get the automated voicemail, then damn it, I think it was a huge success in that regard. And I look forward to making it to the next one. So,
yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, I went from this to a 2-gun match the next day with like 60 people. I was the only person out of those 60 people. Everybody wants to talk gun rights, or everybody wants to talk cool guy shit, and everybody wants to talk freedom and America and Gadsden flags and fucking Browning stickers on the back of your pickup truck and Yeti coolers and whatever the hell. And
sounds like a country song.
Right. And dudes, where were you yesterday? Why weren't you here helping set up? And I'm like, well, let me tell you what I was doing. And we had some interesting conversations, and there were some people who would tend to be naysayers who were very neutral and then even positive about it. So, we got to remember too that the average gun owner is not us. And this is something that we talk about in training and everything else too. Like, the average person who believes in these rights is not plugged into Insta, Facebook, YouTube, Gram land and watching and paying attention to this stuff every 11 seconds like we are, right? So the average guy who's an American gun owner who shoots his 35 times a year to make sure it's ready to kill animals and breaks out his daddy's shotgun a couple times to make sure he's all set and, carries a 642 in his pocket, probably never saw this on his feed. If he even has a feed, right? I mean, if you're above 45, 50 years old, I mean, do you even have an Instagram feed? Are these guys even really? And that's where, unfortunately, the NRA and their scare tactic marketing campaigns and their mailers and their whatever else, that's why and where they're effective. And if we're going to reach that crowd, we're going to have to get out from behind the glowing blue light of the cell phone and walk up and shake some hands and do some old-fashioned sales shit. Old-fashioned sales shit, for those of you who haven't had a beer. And we're just going to have to do it, because if we don't, we'll never reach those people.
Yeah, more flyers in gun shops and ranges and stuff, I think, would help. And Kent, you have a great point. We do have a little bit of an echo chamber where we all follow some of the same accounts online, and a lot of our friends were there. So we don't want to just make it sound like where was the rest of the gun community. We have to respect the fact that a lot of our interaction is with fellow gun owners is online. So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I do want to shift gears here a little bit, Sarah. We actually do have quite a few more subscribers on the podcast since you were here last. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to talk about Hold My Guns. Give us the intro. Talk to some of the new people that maybe haven't heard of your organization before, and I'll turn the floor over to you for a while.
Wow, that's a pleasant surprise. Thank you. I'm Sarah Albrecht. I am a founder of Hold My Guns. My co-founder is Genevieve Jones. She also works with a gun collective. And Hold My Guns is a crisis firearms storage program that's launching soon across the United States. And we are utilizing existing infrastructure. We're offering this program in gun shops and FFLs. So the way that it would work is if someone were to have a personal crisis in their home, whether it's the gun owner themselves or someone in that household, and they make a decision that they needed to take a break from lethal means, that they can take their firearms to one of our partners and voluntarily store them behind the counter. It uses the consignment protocol, which is a protocol that most gun shops use on a daily basis. So that's really not reinventing the wheel. It's just using existing tools for a new purpose. And we're really excited about it. Our goal is to make a list of our partners and a drop-down menu on our website so people can say, find a storage location near me. We want the transaction to be as professional as possible. We're not, gun shop employees are not expected to be psychiatrists and try to figure out, what's going on in that person's mind as they're turning in their firearm for storage. But, for all we know, maybe they have grandkids coming in for the weekend and they just want to make sure that there are no accidents because they have, a wild 2-year-old grandson that gets into everything. So we don't want to ask a lot of questions. We want it to be very professional. But at the same time, acknowledging that, because we don't know what's going on in the lives of the customers who are bringing in firearms, we needed to just treat them with the utmost dignity and respect, which really goes a long way when someone's having a hard time. Our gun shops will have access to local resources. We're going to be encouraging networking with local mental health and medical professionals. So if someone were to say, hey, is there a place nearby that I could get some help? We're having some family issues, then they'll be able to say, yeah, we have some local resources. And similarly, we want to be sharing that information about local storage partners with those resources in the medical and mental health communities so that when it comes up, they can say, hey, if you have any firearms in your home, you can store it here. And that way it just kind of keeps everything neutral. Instead of starting out treatment by talking about confiscation, they can just start out by saying, hey, if you have any firearms, store them here. And it really comes from a place of empowerment versus stripping away someone's dignity and rights. So we're super excited about it. We started working on this last fall. We've really come a long way. We had to raise some funds, which was amazing. That happened in a relatively short amount of time. And we just got our corporation status. And we're working on building that foundation, doing kind of the boring things like that. But once we have that foundation in place, we'll be launching across the United States. So I'm excited about it. I value life. I value people. And this is an opportunity for gun shops across the United States to just really shine in their community and to let them know we care about our customers. You know, our kids play softball with your kids, and we're all in this together. We want to support one another. So, yeah.
Outstanding. Well, and for those of you that do not know or would like more information about Hold My Guns, we did have Sarah and Genevieve on a previous podcast episode. I will be posting links to that video in the description below. So you guys can go hear all about that good stuff. And if you get an opportunity, help spread the word about Hold My Guns. It is a fantastic organization, a fantastic cause, and I think executed beautifully, where it gives and what puts the power in the hands of the individual and not relying on government intervention to help us solve the problems that we need to, so that we can go get the help that we might need. So thank you. Thank you again, Sarah, for what you're doing. I know I speak for Kent when I say that we love your organization, and we're happy to contribute and be a part of it as best that we can to help get this off the ground wherever possible. So thank you. But Kent, on the lighter side, we had our top 10 drills last week that we broadcast and we shared out to everybody. You recently did some homework with that, so why don't you share your experiences for the drill of the week?
My whole goddamn life is homework with this, man. That's all we do. Yeah, so put up or shut up, right? Time to do some drills and film them for the whole wide world to see on one take. And I've got you one take, and it's a 3-2, and it's 2-4-1 clean. So come at me, bro. Let's go get this shit. So the 3-2 is the 3 to the comm alpha, 2 to the head in like very little time. So 2.41 seconds was my clean first run at it with the LTT. And yeah, I don't know. It was it's enjoyable. Gotta get that gun out quick. Gotta get your pinky in the right spot. Gotta get your thumb in the right spot. Gotta ride the recoil up in transition, and your splits have to be the same time as your transition from the alpha to the 3x5 card. Otherwise, you're fucked and you're gonna overshoot or undershoot. So yeah, it's a hell of a drill though, and that was like cold LTT. That was haven't shot the LTT in a month, so fucking loving it. Gonna be putting some people through it this coming weekend and having a bunch. I have a private student that this is one of his benchmarks that we run every week. So, you know, candidly, the 3-2 is kind of like near and dear to my heart. But man, you guys gotta get out there and start filling out that spreadsheet. I'm gonna have it up on greenmountaindefense.com here in the next week or so, along with the 2020 training calendar, where you can hashtag run your gun, not your mouth, and come out and see for yourselves if you guys want to play along. It's gonna be lit, as the kids say on the interwebs. So
what kind of classes do you have coming up, Kent?
Oh my gosh. So everything from privates to what I'm calling essential handgun, which is a manipulations-based class. So essential handgun is the essential tools that you need to be able to employ to get your handgun in and out of a fight. Essential handgun is not about this stuff. Essential handgun is not drills and times and speeds and splits. Essential handgun is, can you get the gun into and out of the fight in compromise situations. So can you do it with one hand? Can you do it with the wrong hand? Can you fix and reload and clear malfunctions one-handed off of your environment around you, etc.? And what are those skill sets that you'll need to be able to employ? And what does it look like carrying a gun with, I don't know, your newborn son in your right arm, for example?
I was going to say that.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
I took a class where it was basically a class that was for mothers. And what would you do if you were holding, we practiced holding something instead of a baby, and, shooting with one hand, and maneuvering in stances that would protect that baby as we were carrying it through the course. That's a pretty cool thing. Now you have some firsthand experience maneuvering with a newborn son, huh?
it's
You're picturing it.
So my brother and his wife gave us a car seat that we are not using, just because we got a different brand and different bases and all this stuff, right? So I put some weight in that bastard and went out to the range. And I elicited a little bit of, what the fuck is this guy doing over here? And one of the older gentlemen who's kind of a stalwart in our club, he's been around forever, and he's, him and Jesus invented the 1911 kind of guy, because he was there back then, just came over with the biggest smile on his face, and he goes, "How often have you taught this?" And I said, "I don't know, probably 10 times, over the course of like this particular drill with the baby in the hand and all that." And he goes, "How often have you drilled it for an hour and a half in one range setting?" I said, "Never." He goes, "Oh, it's almost like it matters now, doesn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, it's almost like it matters now." He's just so sweet about it. He said, "Yeah, it's a whole nother world when it's a real thing, isn't it?" And it certainly is. But yeah, so that's one of them. Diagnostic handgun is all about getting you better. So that's where we're breaking out the timers and the drills and this whole series that we're talking about, the top 10 drills and what they are, why they are, what they mean, how you can diagnose yourself as a shooter, what you can learn from them. Because we don't want you to have to come to us all the time. We want folks to be able to diagnose themselves and learn. So there's that. The same 2 pieces of curriculum for rifle, and then there's advanced handgun, which is the 2-day everything I think you need to know to operate a handgun correctly class. And it's a 16-hour class that always takes me 20 to teach, because I care so much. And if you're not getting it, we're going to stay there until you get it. And people will come away with a lot of skill set, and hopefully what they'll really come away with was a way to help go develop that skill set without us. Because, if you got to keep paying me a couple $100 a weekend, you're going to burn out pretty quick on this. And credit where credit's due, a lot of deep influences from the greats in the business and in the curriculum. There's a lot that has been borrowed or outright stolen, and the difference is we're huge on giving credit, and we're huge on explaining where the lineage came from and why. To steal from Jedi, the best teachers are the best thieves. Give credit where credit's due. So we do a lot of that, and I always will. So it's a good time. But we'll have 9, if not 10, of those weekends, plus a smattering of other things. And then we're still on the competition circuit and out there, #not sucking. So it's gonna be fun. But it's gonna be a good time, and I would very much like to see some of the people that subscribe and that listen to us and Hold My Guns fans and TJ's fans and my fans, and if you're out there on the fence and you're man, I'd like to take some of that training, but I don't know. Man, just email me. We'll work something out. If there's a monetary barrier in your life that's keeping you from learning this stuff, I'll be your huckleberry. Let's come find out. Sarah, you and I were just talking about this earlier. I want people to get out on the range and to get better. I don't. If I was trying to make $1 million at this, I'd write a book that nobody would read, because
your heart for people shines through in your work, Kent. And I'm sure that like that is something that you can't simply write into a curriculum. When you have a heart for making sure that people know what they're doing, they're familiar with their firearm, that they are not going to hesitate, they're aware of the threats. Those things matter to you. And I was so grateful to have you at the rally. You were there. My husband Tom was there. You both have a similar mindset of, got to protect people. And when you come at it from that approach versus how can we make money, it's not that money isn't important, but the whole way that you treat people who you actually have an interest in whether or not they're learning, it's a totally different approach. And that's something wonderful about the way that you teach and the way that you talk to people, Kent.
Thank you very much. It's a reluctant passion. It's very tough for me to put that I word in front of my name. That's something that still kind of shudders me a little bit, and I think it always should. I think when you don't question yourself is the time that you've maybe started to buy your own line a little too much, and I'm honored that anybody would give any kind of a shit what I have to say or what I have to teach at all, period. And if there's any way that I can facilitate and foster any kind of a business out of this and continue to do it, I'm floored and honored to be able to. And I'm super also thrilled while we're at it to be hosting some of the people that I look up to. So we might as well do some name dropping. We got Jedi coming. We got Tim Herron coming. We're talking with Carrie from Dark Angel. We're talking with Tim Chandler, and a couple others. So we're looking at teaching 10 to 12 really awesome classes this year, plus privates, and hosting another 4 to 6. And if you want to know who I value, look at who I'm hosting, because that's
nice.
I could easily make my own money in those weekends for my own benefit, and instead I'm trying to promote somebody else. Selfishly, of course, because I want to take their training too, right? But also, I'm honored that those guys would even pick up the phone and want to talk to me at all, period. And we've got a healthy thing going there. So look for awesome hosting and some good classes. TJ, you and I are about to embark on taking some class together, so that's going to be cool.
Yep. Modern Samurai Project in February.
Wow, cool.
That's going to be good. We're gonna get people out to the range this year. We're gonna keep doing that. And if you're hearing the sound of my voice, whether it's on podcast or whether it's on YouTube or wherever, hit me up, Green Mountain Defense. Please let me help if I can. And P.S. if I can
I ask you a question?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, please. No, go ahead.
So, you just said, however I can help. So it just popped it into my mind. So one of the other hats that I wear is I'm a range safety officer, and one of the roles as a range safety officer I have is to work with kids. And so a lot of the kids who come to the range, we on any given night might have like 30 kids. But something that I am struggling with helping some of the kids is kids whose parents have very high expectations for the kids. And so they will come out of, we break it down into relays, and they'll come out of the relay and the parent will look at the target and it'll be like, I told you to do this or that. And wow, I could have shot better than that. Out on the range when we're not doing league nights, sometimes I see that between spouses, if one spouse has more experience than the other spouse. But how do you handle someone who's been shamed for their shooting, and how do you help them to get out of their heads a little bit and kind of brush that off so they're not hearing that negative voice every time, that really will mess them up in their shooting? How do you work with that, Kent?
So my first reaction is to say that the other side of the influence, whether it be the parent or the spouse or whatever, should not be involved to that level. We do this all the time where we break up husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, put them on the other side of the line. When you have shooters show up to matches, you squad them differently. You don't squad husbands and wives together. You don't squad freaking, daughters and fathers together, etc. But we had a neat exception to that just this past Sunday at a 2-gun match where a young lady shot her first 2-gun match with her dad not very far behind. And as her dad put it on Facebook, her longtime mentor running the timer behind her. And there's a gentleman in our club whose name I will not mention, but who's been doing amazing work since before I was born with a gun in his hand. And he's done amazingly with this young lady. And the key there is that dad was smart enough to let go and give the reins to somebody else. That's the real key. As far as the shooter that's been shamed, that's all about setting expectations and deciding what the goals really are. And they're not the same for everybody. No different than my weight loss goal versus TJ's or your financial goals versus somebody else's or whatever. We got to set accurate expectations for that shooter.
Mm-hmm. And
we have to reinforce the positives without so much fatherly soccer coach negative reinforcement. And I can just hear, I know exactly what you're talking about. I can literally hear my dad like standing on the sidelines of a field going, "You could hit harder than that." It's like, yeah, thanks, Dad. That was helpful. Really appreciate your feedback. So what you're saying is you want me to do better. Thanks. Great. But, those kids have to go through that at some point in their lives. And the other thing that this is just me, and it all depends on the age, right? Like, sometimes you got to be told that you don't get a trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough too. And maybe that is or is not your role in your volunteer job which by the way is super cool that you have that many kids in the first place. I'll tell you what, right now, I'm gonna say some shit and then I'm gonna have to pay for it. I'll pay for the ammo if you can bring 30 kids to show up to an IDPA match. I mean, we'll go nuts if I could have that many kids on one range at one time. I'd love that. You
have to come join us. We have so much fun.
Here I come.
Just come join us.
Yeah, we'll do. I love to see kids. We do Family Fun Day every year at our club. One of my fellow board members at the club and the guy that runs the IDPA organization has organized that, and we put. Holy crap! I literally must have done new handgun shooter orientation for several 300-400 people. Many of them under the age of 20 and very many under the age of 15. So that was awesome. But that's the closest we've gotten. I've never had 30 kids at once. That'd be like bananas. That'd be so cool.
It's bananas. It's well organized, but it's bananas.
Let's do a handgun version.
We have, so once the kids go through the program, they can graduate to handgun, and we have little 22 pistols. So, but yeah.
No. I got at least 30 Glocks. Let's bring them out. Let's do that.
I would trust those kids with a Glock. They really are they're very safe and disciplined in the way that they handle their firearms. They also know that I'm going to pull them off the range if they're being unsafe in any way. And sometimes, it takes a couple times of doing that and it catches on. Like, if I'm reaching over the firing line, Sarah's going to kick me off, and Mrs. Albrecht is going to kick me off. And, but it's a awesome skill for kids to have with this particular scenario. What I'm seeing is, and we've seen this before, and the way that we've handled this, we've actually talked to the parents, but what I tell the kids out on the range is, just when you walk through these doors, it's between you and the targets, and we want to pick one thing for you to work on. So in this particular case, I could tell that the kid had a lot of anxiety. I was watching what was going on out in the waiting area in between relays. And I just said, knowing that, didn't tell him, "Hey man, you seem really anxious. Maybe you need to breathe." But it was a great opportunity to talk about breath control. And it was a great opportunity to say, take some deep breaths and relax. And then, just to go through those, because you can't be breathing heavily and get an accurate shot. So we kind of combined the breathing for anxiety and for accuracy. And so I said, work on that this week. And my goal for that particular student is just to each week pick just one thing rather than having him try to focus on all the different things, and just to let it go when you walk through the door and know that, everything on the other side of the door doesn't matter. It just matters between you and that target. So
it's really interesting too when you start to, as you get good at diagnosing shooters, somebody can be doing everything wrong and still getting the right results, right? And somebody can be doing everything right and still not getting the result they want. Another good trick to this is diagnosing what actions or inputs the person's putting on the gun that are actually having a negative or positive impact.
Yes.
So if the kid's standing with his feet like Daffy Duck and his one shoulder ducked way too far and his cheek welds out of alignment and God knows what else, but damn it, that trigger press is screwing him up, right?
Oh my gosh, we just had that happen. Yeah, there's this little girl. She had, her posture was perfect. Her breath control was perfect. The way that she was lining up her sights, they were perfect. And she was just missing and missing. And I literally laid down on the ground next to her and I just said, I'm going to watch you. We shoot, there's 10 shots per relay on a wooden block. And so I said on the first 5 shots, because there are 5 shots on each target and they hang 2 targets. I said, I'm just going to lay next to you. I'm going to watch what you do. And I'm going to see because she came to me, Mrs. Albrecht, I can't seem to, I'm not hitting any bullseyes. Like, okay, let's try to figure this out. And it was all about the trigger. And she, everything was perfect. And then she was just yanking on the trigger. So I just, this one doesn't have much of a clicker on it, but I gave her a pen and I said, I want you to do this 100 times a day where you're slowly pushing down on that button on that pen. And I don't want you to know when it's going to click. Just slowly squeeze the trigger. Wouldn't you know, she got every single target to qualify this past Monday night. And every time she looked like she was going to cry. She was so happy. The mom came out and hugged me. It was, it was a breakthrough, but you have to be willing to get in there and really, see what it is. Cause on the surface, everything looks fine. So,
shooters, it's amazing what people do and don't do, but one of the tricks is to not, if they're doing 10 things wrong, but you think 1 or 2 are really negatively affecting them, maybe leave those other 8 alone.
Yes.
And you gotta pick and choose your battles. When I do a private, I've had the privilege of having several students hire me on as a full-time private where we do a reoccurring class every week or every other or whatever we do. And when you see the same shooter over and over and over again, you got to vary up your POI a little bit for that day. And the game that I'm playing now with this one gentleman is awesome because I back him into the lesson plan. I start him at the failure point and back him into it. And he'll go, yeah, but if I'm not doing this, how? And I'll just stop and he'll look at me and he'll go, is that what I paid you $100 for tonight? And I'm like, you got it. And he'll just get this big smile on his face. I'm like, all right, let's do that. And damned if we don't, it works out. And that's when you got to be able to do this for yourself first before you can do it for others sometimes. And you have to really learn to articulate the thing that you know in your head. Your pen analogy is a great one, right? You might know, hey, you're fucking up your trigger press, but if 12-year-old Susie doesn't know what a trigger press is or why it matters or have any all these awesome cool guy Navy SEAL analogies aren't going to work on her. Well, where's the leverage point of a fulcrum? She's like, I don't know. I'm 12. Right. She doesn't know. Yeah. She
was 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tiny little thing.
Right. So you literally going, that's all it takes, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. For those of you on podcasts, I just clicked the pen. But come on, sometimes something so simple, or an analogy I give pistol shooters all the time. So I want you to pull the front sight through the rear sight. I want you to pretend it's on a string and you're trying to get the front sight to come through the rear sight. I want you to do it in one motion. The trouble that I have with some of these things is we give people, and this now we're off of your girls and their rifle team and we're on to defensive shooting. Sometimes we give people these crutches to teach them on and they never get off the crutch. Pin and pull is an example of that. If you're still pinning your trigger and waiting for reset on a handgun and then repressing back through the reset and wondering why your splits suck and wondering why you're always yanking shots low left or low right, depending on which hand you are, I got news for you. It's because you're trying to pin and pull and catch the reset in the middle of a 32,000 PSI explosion. You're not Terminator. That doesn't work. I'm sorry. But when we teach people to pin and pull when they're shooting one round per 2 seconds, it works fine. And then you get a guy trying to pin and pull and shoot a bill drill or shoot a 3-2, and he's like, well, that don't work. I'm like, yeah, of course not. You got to let go of the trigger at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just
and sometimes you just have to let people fail. People have an idea of, we see that sometimes with the kids and the way that they're like their stance or something. They've seen something in the movies and in their mind, this is how they have to shoot. And so every week we go in and we try to make corrections and they don't listen and they continue to do the same thing. It's fine. They're still paying us. But after a while, they're like, why aren't I getting qualifying targets? And it's like, are you ready to listen now? Can we go back over some of the things that, are you willing to let go of this movie star idea and actually work on getting qualifying targets? And then they're more open to it. But it's like that for all of life, isn't it, Ken?
Oh, it's why am I not losing weight? I don't know. Stop drinking 11 beers. Maybe that. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of these things, but people don't want to admit Dunning-Kruger is like the worst analogy in the planet when it comes to the firearms community, but it's so true. We all have our preconceived things that we think we're awesome at until we get around what awesome really is, and then your eyes get freaking blown out of your head if you're at all intellectually honest with yourself. But it's there's Tom. Yay!
There's Tom.
Hi.
So I've recently had.
I'm sorry, I just got all excited because I saw my buddy from the rally, and I
know.
So I one of the greatest challenges that I have come across has been getting my son interested in firearms. Okay. And I'm putting this out there because I'm hoping it'll help somebody else who might be, we have to realize that there's a shift in the generational interests, right? Where guys and gals in our generation were running around outside, playing with Nerf guns, playing with BB guns, riding bikes. We weren't glued to a Switch or a PlayStation or anything like that. Coming into doing anything outdoors was second nature to us. Mm-hmm. So one of the biggest challenges that I had was peeling my 10-year-old son away from video games and getting him to want to come to the range with me. And he would come to the range, he would shoot. And I'll be honest, I fell victim to some of those aspects where I don't want to say I was hard on him, but I wasn't making it fun for him. I wasn't earning his attention. So I decided to shift my strategy a little bit. And one of the things that I found worked was, as long as he is being safe, and I work with, ingrain those fundamentals of safety into his head, I don't care if he sucks or if he's not hitting the bullseye. Let's make this fun for them. So what I did was I went and got 2 cases of the cheapest soda I could find.
Cool.
And took some 22s, took some AR-15s, some pistol caliber carbines out, and I shook the dickens out of these cans, set them up, kept them at a safe distance, and propped up on a bag, had him shoot the cans. They would explode. Made it fun. Let the excitement of the range draw him in. Mm-hmm. And now, when he'll ask me, he goes, "Dad, are you going to the range this weekend?" Yep. You want to go? Yeah. Okay. And what that has progressed into is I was able to start increasing the difficulty with him a little bit. So we still use the cans. We still go, still go get a couple cases of cheap soda, set him out there, and I'll maybe put him a little farther back, or I'll give him a different platform, a 22 pistol. I haven't given him a center fire pistol yet, so we'll get to that point. But yeah, maybe when Uncle, maybe when Uncle Kent comes down. But
can't wait.
But I gave him my 22 pistol, and we're about 10 yards away, and he was missing. And I saw like this light click where he goes, "Oh shit, this isn't as easy as Fortnite." No shit. And to your point, Sarah, are you ready to listen now? So when he was watching me shoot and watching me hit targets and do well, he goes, okay, it started. I allowed him to connect the dots that, oh, okay, Dad actually knows what he's talking about. When he misses, what am I doing wrong? Let him go through that discovery. Let him go through that evolution in mindset. And I'll tell you, it's a beautiful thing. So dads out there, if you are facing the same problem I am, just let the kid be safe. Otherwise, let him do the goofy, pointless shit that we all used to do with firearms. As long as you're being safe, shoot a can. I don't care if you hit the top, the bottom, dead center in the, of the logo. Just hit the can and get that reward of an exciting, burst of a carbonated beverage.
Have you, speaking of carbonated beverages, have you ever, I forget what they're called, although we have some packs here, you pump them up with a bicycle pump and they have like a cap on them and I
have seen those. I know
explosions.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
They are so fun. We use them we have like, we set up like a carnival shoot at the range twice a year for the kids. And we fill them with like just regular old baking flour. And so when it looks like smoke's coming out, they make a really loud boom. So if you've never tried those, they're really fun. They sound like a good explosion. But finding things like that, it really can be it can be very incentivizing. Coming up with little contests for kids out on the range. We do that all the time.
Yeah, if you can find stuff, I've seen those, but I run into a problem where we don't drink a whole lot of sodas in my house. So we don't have a whole lot of cans, nor do we have a whole lot of bottles. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot of plastic bottles lying around. So I run into an issue of logistics. Mm-hmm. But you spend $5 and you can go get 24 sodas.
Granted, or water.
Yeah, or water. Sure. Whatever you want to do. But make it fun for the kid. That's the point.
Exactly.
Like I said, I wasn't hard on him. My biggest challenge was getting him to want to be. He had to want to come to the range, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you don't want to be there, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to be safe. And then it's just going to increase the stress of the whole situation and make your training evolution that much more difficult because now you've got a child who's bored and you have to do something with them or just the whole day is going to fall apart.
Yeah. And also keeping it short with kids, mm-hmm. Just like when you first have kids, you think, oh yeah, I've got to do all this shopping. I've got to do this and do that. And then all of a sudden your kid starts to have a temper tantrum or a meltdown. You're like, what's wrong with my kid? And the issue is not your kid. It's you dragging your kid out to stop, shop till you drop. And you have to be aware of the threshold of attention of kids that you take to the range. Make sure that they've been fed adequately and they're not hopped up on sugar and caffeine, and they know where the bathroom is and they know all the range rules. But you want to be sensitive to whomever you bring with you on the range, what their threshold is for attention. And when someone starts losing attention, they're not as safe. So you really have to be aware of that.
Exactly. Yeah. The key point here, folks, is make sure everybody is being safe. They're being safe. I mean, look, we can talk training scars, we can talk all that shit, but at the end of the day, at 10, 11, 12 years old, I promise you there is still plenty of time to get those training scars trained out of them when they become more capable of handling, adult size, everyday carry type equipment. Mm-hmm. I would also say this, I can only speak, of course, to 10-year-old boys, but when in doubt, go big bore, because while shooting the 9mm, AR-15 and all, the rimfire stuff, that kept his attention for a while. But when I put him behind a 450 Bushmaster for the first time, I'll tell you what, I've never seen his face light up so much. It just stole my heart. I'll tell you what, though, he was drilling 1-inch targets at 100 yards with that thing.
Beautiful.
I had to put my hand on the on the stock to give him a cheek weld because his head was too small to reach the sight. But yeah, when in doubt, go big bore. I mean, you put a 10-year-old behind a 50 cal, right?
Sure, why not? Hey, listen, they do it in Somalia all the time. Those 10-year-olds are fucking.
That they do,
right? God, I'm terrible. That being said, we are coming up to the magic moment. This was an awesome impromptu little discussion about rights and about training and about all the things that we hold so dear. Sarah, you're the best ever. Thank you for being here. Please do everything that you can in the next couple, minute 30 or whatever, to plug yourself mercilessly. Sell us. Oh
my goodness.
Where can we find you? What's the handle? What's the website and the Instagrams and the face kissers and all that shit?
First of all, I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity and for letting me talk about Hold My Guns. It seems like just a natural, fun thing to talk about. It really is just an extension of the values that I have and that I care about people. And you can, of course, find us at holdmyguns.org. But if anyone's watching and they just want to reach out, send me an email at info@holdmyguns.org. We are looking for gun shops and FFLs across the United States who are interested in participating in our program. So if you'd like to participate in that capacity, then reach out to me. We're also looking for medical and mental health professionals to work with. So, those kinds of things can help us to not only get the word out, but also start laying some groundwork for great connections once we launch. You can find us on Instagram at holdmyguns.org and also on Facebook at holdmyguns.org. So stay in touch, reach out, and thanks again, everyone, for your support. It really means a lot to us. Together, we can do this. We can help reduce suicide and also protect our Second Amendment rights.
Without the intervention of the government being necessary.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for all that you do and for being here and for being part of the team over here. We consider you guys family now. So, thank you a million ways. And we look forward to doing more cool stuff with you in the future because ain't nobody stopping the train, as the rappers say. So we're thrilled.
That's right.
TJ, plugs, sponsors, talk about Right On, talk about videos coming up. What do you got?
All right, folks. So let's see here. If you haven't considered it yet, while we talk about guns all the time here, get out and train on medical. Carrie Davis at Dark Angel Medical is putting together a fantastic program, fantastic equipment. Get yourself some training. As Kent and I have said numerous times on this podcast, you are more likely exponentially to require the use of medical equipment than you will a firearm. So if you're not going to carry a gun, carry a tourniquet. And if you do carry a gun, carry a tourniquet. Get out there and learn how to stop the bleed and help your fellow man or woman, as it were. Right On Optics. As you guys know, I'm a member of the pro staff. We are happy to also bring Kent on board to the pro staff family for Right On Optics. As of right now, code TRAMSEY will get you 15% off at rightonoptics.com. You can also check them out at many of their numerous online suppliers. Also, keep an eye out at your local gun shop for Right On products, and keep an eye out for them at various trade shows and outdoor shows around the country, because I'm telling you, these guys are everywhere, and there's some fantastic stuff coming down the pipeline for 2020. Other than that, head on over to greenmountaindefense.com. Check out Kent's training regimen and his calendar. Go take some classes from Kent. Go take some classes from the people that he's hosting. Head on over to thegunpoint.com. Check out some of the articles that I write. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Lead Sling and Ginger is me. Kent, you can find it as at Green Mountain Defense on Instagram and Facebook, and everywhere books are sold. right?
Sure. I don't.
Okay,
not,
sure.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Not yet.
No, we'll go with that. Yeah,
Give it a year.
if you're new to the podcast, by all means, please like, share, subscribe. If you like what we're doing here, feel free to leave a comment and hit that thumbs up button. If you don't like what we're doing, hit the thumbs down button. Let us know we suck. And until we see each other again, God bless you all. Take care of each other. Get out and shoot. And Epstein didn't kill himself.
No, he didn't.